Welcome to Our Life. Today is all about education. So let me give you a quick removing the mask back. Were you aware that 7 million kids in 2018 are in the school system and they're disabled? So when we return, it's all about exploring education, autism. So we'll be back with my first guest so we can start removing the mask on education. And we're back, and I have Mr. Terrence Duncan with me from Grace Christian Academy. Correct. How long have you been in the teaching profession? Because it's been decades.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, it's been a little while. I actually started back in 2001. Just moved to Houston, just like a recent college graduate. Shoot, I need a job. And teaching was my profession, so been pretty much in it since then.
When did you know you wanted to work with kids? Because kids are bad.
Yeah, kids are bad. Yeah. But I tell you, I didn't. I really didn't. Coming out of college, I was really focused on being. I had a graduate degree in biology, and I really focused on being. I was going to be a chiropractor. That's why I came down here. I was going to chiropractic college.
Okay.
But then I got in there and working on people's backs. I did a little internship for X amount of time. I said, this is not for me. I'm
You didn't like doing that?
I didn't
Well,
like
that's
doing
still
that.
you being a people person.
It is, but I found that I felt like I had more to contribute. I knew coming from the school, just being in school, that somebody, just an African American male, to be honest, a male teacher could have an influence in the school system. I knew that. I tried to take advantage of that, and I didn't know it would, take me through the next 20 years or almost 20 years. But yeah, and so just from that decision, it turned into a career. So it's
What do you love the most about teaching?
The end product, meaning I've taught long enough now to where you have kids, you meet them at a certain level, you may be in your class, be in your presence from 9, 10 years old, and then when you come back and you see them, they graduate from college. A lot of my kids now have had families. A lot of them have went into teaching themselves. I've had an opportunity, because I've been in administration as well, to hire some people who were in my class. That's by far the best for me.
Okay. So let's start removing some masks and break down the public versus charter schools.
Right.
So let's start with public schools. I went to a public school.
Right.
Public schools has always been in existence. So let's start with the public school and how that system works.
Well, so obviously public education is, in America, is for kids, is you have to be educated, of course. And obviously we have a choice. We have some choices that some other countries don't. We can go public, private, or now, like you said, charter. So specifically talking to public and charter, that means that they are publicly funded.
Okay.
And the public school system is funded by the federal government. Charter school system is funded by the state. Now, here's a real difference. Charter school is more or less like a business. So say, for example, Monique, you want to start a charter school, Monique's charter school. What you would do, particularly in the state of Texas, you put together really almost like a business plan. You put the application together, you send it to the Texas Education Agency, which is our state governing body, and they tell you, hey, this is what you need to do, a series of, I think it's a year-long process of approvals. And once you get your school, then you get allowed to basically start a school. Now, here's a stipulation. You can, as far as your curriculum and what you want to do, how you want to teach, whether you want to have 2 teachers in one class, whether you want to be a music specialty, whether you want to do media as your focus, that's fine. They'll let you do all that. It's your business. However, the accountability measure is you still have to take those state mandated tests. And your kids have to perform at a certain level in order to continue with your charter. And that's really one of the main differences.
Okay, so that was my next question, the standardized testing, because when I went to school, we didn't have all that.
Yeah.
We didn't have all that. And now, is it really needed to determine the level that a child is really at? Because it's a lot of kids don't do well on testing, but they are really smart.
Yeah. It's testing now is crazy. I think I was reading something about Finland is one of the top educational countries in the world, and from pre-K through 12th grade, I think they only take one test to determine
college.
Throughout their whole
Time
career.
in school.
Time
Oh,
in
wow.
school. whereas in the United States it's up to 112.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy. Now you asked, do we need to take those tests?
Yeah.
In my opinion, I don't think so. I've administered a test for years. Just been in those classrooms. I've seen anxiety. I've seen kids just, I mean, from the time they get there at 8 in the morning, even to 3:30, 4 o'clock, still taking a test, 9, 10, 11-year-old
And they
kids.
know they have to pass it in order to move on.
It
so
creates
that's
a lot of stress. Yeah, it creates a lot. It can create a lot of stress. It can create a lot of stress, and it's a lot of stress for the teachers as well, because it's not like the teachers have a choice. But I think parents now are finding out more that they do have rights, and you can opt out of it, and that's not necessarily common knowledge.
Okay. Well, if you opt out of it, if the parent opts their kid out of it, what happens? Because will the kids still be able to go to the next grade or no?
Yeah, well, you really can't use specifically a test to keep a kid from going to the next grade. That's why parents are taking advantage of those rights. And like I said, that's not something, when we do our meet the parents at the beginning of the school year, that the school district or the schools are necessarily telling you. Parents, parents have to go find that information out on their own.
And I have friends that are school teachers. I didn't know that.
You know what's funny? A lot of school teachers don't know. That's not necessarily taught in faculty meetings either. So
are you serious?
It's just one of those things. Yeah, you got to do your research. We were talking earlier about doing your research.
So that goes back to, I'm going to go back to the public school here in Houston. HISD is now being taken over by another.
Yeah, I know the conversation about TP.
Is it all about money? Because for you to hide that parents have the right to opt their kids out of taking these tests, some of the teachers don't know, is it all about money and not about teaching the kids what they need to learn?
I don't know if it's all about money, but I do know in certain situations, in certain states, there is an agenda. And you just have to pay attention to what you think that agenda is. And so as parents, it actually empowers us, because that means that, hey, you just can't blindly send your kid to school and think everything will be okay. You need to get active. You need to research. We're in a Google generation. Man, go read. Go research and find this stuff out.
And it's not like, to me, teachers are not like when I was growing up. Teachers back then made you learn. And they worked with you constantly until you got it. Teachers today are coming straight out of high school, and they're young. So a lot of them, it's kind of for the their paycheck.
Well, I think education is often in that respect is a reflection of what happens in a lot of businesses. Is that if I got a 20-year teacher, public school teacher, then that 20-year teacher is going to make more than somebody that's just coming out of college.
Yeah.
And so to reduce costs, then I can either encourage that 20-year teacher to go into retirement, or I can just release them all together. I can bring, there's a couple companies that if you go and you're in college and you go and teach for 2 years, they'll pay off your student loans. So you'll have like what I call free agent teachers. So they'll go and they'll teach for a couple of years, get those loans paid off, and then they're out. And then they can, all education institutions, whether it's private or charter or public, they can just save money that way. So that happens.
So I'm just gonna say it's all about money. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because that's what it seems like. It's money and whatever is convenient for the school system at that time. That's what it seems like to me.
Well, I mean, like I said, it just every, I would say almost to the individual organization, meaning whether it's a school district or charter school system or individual independent private schools, everyone has an agenda. And it's the parent's job to really understand what that agenda is and how your kid fits in it in order to, and you have to be your biggest advocate for it.
And a lot of parents are not being the advocate about it until they get ready to shut down that school.
Well, it's just they don't know. They don't know that they need to go find out information.
Research.
So for information for shows like this, I don't think we tell go find out.
Because you're
read.
telling me something that I did not know.
Yeah,
about that you can opt your kids out of the situation.
Yes, you can.
So let's talk about safety in schools. Over the past couple of years, you send them to school, but you don't know if they're going to come home.
Right.
And leading up to doing this show, we just had a shooting in California.
That's right.
So I was like, okay. my question, I think my only question is, do you think we can do more? Because I don't think from the school systems to the police department, I do not think we do enough to
Right.
protect the kids when they're at school.
Right, right. It's gotten to the point now we do, you do active shooter training.
And that's the school in California,
Yeah.
that's what they had. So when it happened the other day, they did what they were taught. It kind of still didn't help.
It doesn't help. I mean, it really doesn't, because it's one of those freak occurrences that no one knows what to do if something like that happens. And then, you got to look at it from this perspective. I saw this on like a comedy show. I mean, if you're doing active shooter training with the kids, then the active shooter may be in there with you. So, I mean, it's just, it's the craziest thing in the world. So, but yeah, there's a lot. I think there's a few things that probably should be done without getting way too political. We know that's a hot political topic as far as guns and the use of guns and so forth. But there's some things that I think.
And that's another thing. Like I said about the school system, it's about money. When it comes to the guns, and to me, if you have weapons on the street that the military uses, it should not be on the streets.
That's my opinion.
You should not have easy access to weapons that the military use. You need to go back to a revolver, and because that's normally what people had back in the day. But when you have military-style weapons, that should not be on the street. That should not even be sold at gun shows. And I also feel if you are no longer in the military, I think some of your weapons need to, especially military-style weapons. If you are ex-military, I don't even think you should own those anymore. That was your life when you were in the military. Why do you still have them and you're out?
Right.
So, and then you can, a kid has access to that in your house. So I think it's like you said, it's about politics. They don't care, to me, about the kids that are being shot up. They don't. Because what is so hard to make a decision on what guns you need to remove? So it's again, it's money. It goes back to money.
As we talk about, so much of stuff plays into agendas, and you just got to understand what those agendas are really looking to, what they're trying to accomplish with these agendas.
So is that what the world has come to, you think? Everybody has their own agenda, and forget the children, forget the school system, forget what the country was built on, forget. It's all about agenda. It's all about getting ahead. It's all about step over the next person. Is that what the world has come to now?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm qualified to say, but I do know that just in my personal experience, as a parent, as a professional, you have to take a look at individual agendas. You have to take a look at whatever organization you're part of, whatever organization your kids are a part of. You take a look and see what they're about, see if you're for it, see if you approve. There's some things that you like, some things that you don't like, some things what you can tolerate and what you cannot. Everything is up for analysis, and because of the technology today, we can find out almost anything about as much as we want. So you just have to be very, very, very. You have to do your homework. Pay attention.
You definitely have to do your homework. Do you think we need to put metal detectors in the schools?
I mean, I think they probably could be a short-term fix for some areas, but because for the most part,
is it Chicago that has them? It's certain schools.
It's a lot of schools
that has.
There's a lot of schools. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, and I know, like I said, I grew up going to public schools, and there are schools, plenty of schools around the country that have metal detectors. I mean, my opinion is just about a lot of these kids who are going through this. Almost everyone that I've read about have been going through some things personally, and they had a lot of things that showed up in their life that led them to make these terrible choices. And so I think probably more time should be spent on, well, how can we as a community or a school community or church community, whatever case, connect with these kids. There's a lack. I think I was at a school that we had about 1,500 kids, and there are 2 guidance counselors. And so if a kid has an issue, then they have to go to one of those 2. And it's just they can't do that. I mean, it's just they can't handle the demand. And so we need to be able to get to know these kids. So if it's an environment where it's, I don't know, X amount of kids, 1,500, 1,000, whatever the case, I think we should probably focus on bringing those numbers down to where we can get to know those kids a lot more. We can be more personal with them. I'm at a private school, and I'm actually a private school advocate. I know that's not for everybody. I didn't go to a private school. Fortunately, my wife and I were blessed enough to be able to help our kids. But I do like the fact that whether it's private or charter or even small public, personalization.
Yeah.
You know who this kid is. You know his family is. You see something, if he comes in with some kids come in with a lot of anxiety, a lot of things they went through the night before. And if they come into school, you know their name, you talk to them, hey, come over here, let's talk for a minute. You know, kind of like you said when we were growing up in school, I mean, teachers knew you, they knew your parents. Hey, I'm just calling you as a teacher, you calling a parent, hey, I'm just calling you. He came in a little upset this morning, just want to see if there's anything I can do to help. And so when you have, I don't know, 3,000 kids, I've taught in a public school classroom here in Houston in which I had 45 kids in one class.
That's a lot.
And it is a lot. And so throughout the course of that year, I think I had like 150, plus 175 kids throughout. And I mean, as a teacher, particularly if it's something that you love to do, you're going to try to get to know as all of you can. But, you know, just based on numbers, a lot of times it just makes it difficult. So I think the way to be able to curtail a lot of that violence is just you need to get more personal and get to know these kids, be able to help them at the levels that they need that help.
Yeah.
I don't know a kid that don't respond to someone that cares about them.
Okay. Lastly, another thing that is a big problem in the school system is when you have special, we're going to talk a little bit about the special education programs, but that's another problem. Because when you have kids that are in the school system and they have special needs, they are being mistreated. They are being mistreated.
Well, I think, you know, first of all, you just got to understand how it works. And if you're in a public school system, public or charter, there's a certain amount of money that each child represents that either get from the federal government or a combination of federal and state
We're going
funds.
back to that money thing, huh?
Going back, well, I mean, you got to understand the agenda. You do.
We're going back to
And
that
so
money thing.
for what we call neurotypical kids, kids without any special needs, it's right around $7,000 for the year. So for each kid in that school,
So
you get about
$7,000.
$7,000 for a year. And that's where attendance comes into plays, and that's why that's a big deal. For special needs kid, that number jumps to about $16,900
A kid?
per kid for every special needs kid. And so that's almost $10,000 more per kid. And so you have various kids who have whatever the case. It could be, like you said, whatever special need, whether it's occupational, whether it's mental, whether it's just a product of, that's the first thing I think is good to understand. Then the second thing, in my opinion, is there needs to be, in my opinion, I don't know how we can pull it off, but more specialization. So say, for example, if I have a kid with cerebral palsy and then I have a kid like my son who's on the autism spectrum, well, those are two different kids and they have two different needs.
Yes.
And the way the system is set up currently, it's not necessarily specialized to be able to meet all those kids' needs. For example, again, this is personal experience. My son is on the autism spectrum, and he has a speech delay. So he's about 9 years old, but he has vocabulary probably of someone that's a lot younger. In order to treat that, we have to get a speech person to be able to work with them. But if it were just left up to the public school that he was at, they do have a speech person, but he was only allowed, he'll only be allowed to work with that person 20 minutes every 2 weeks, just because of the demand. And so what my wife had to do is we had to go outside, and a lot of times company insurance doesn't pay for this.
Exactly.
You have to be able to pay for these things on your own. We had to get our own speech therapist, and to be honest, we're able to currently afford probably about once a week, twice a week. But what he needs is about 3 or 4 hours per day. But that would cost in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's just in speech alone, not to mention ABA therapy and a lot of other therapy. So it's overwhelming, just the things that a lot of these kids need.
So when it comes to the teachers, when you go to school to become a teacher, are you being taught also how to work with special needs kids? Or are you just being taught whatever curriculum you need to know to be a teacher? Are you being taught to work specifically with special needs kids? Because I think a regular teacher should not be in a special needs class. You need a teacher that specializes with those type of children. They don't have that in the school
Well,
system.
again, so, special needs is a catch-all for anybody that's different, anybody that's considered neurotypical. And so for all the various things that a special need, like this special need kid may need this special need kid may need that, or whatever the case, no, teachers, unfortunately, are not specialized, even the ones that are quote-unquote special ed teachers, to be able to deal with specific situations or what to do. Like we talked about ABA therapy, again, that's applied behavior therapy for kids, and that's a typical therapy for kids on the autism spectrum. Well, no, teachers aren't necessarily taught how to do that. If you're coming out and you just want to be a teacher, you go to curriculum, you go get certified. Well, unless you invest your individual time and go learn about that specific sort of therapy for that sort of kid on your own, then you're going to be at a disadvantage. You don't know. And so honestly, you can't help it. And I would honestly say teaching, as a career teacher, I will advocate for the heart of a lot of teachers. Teachers care a lot, do a lot, work hard, spend a lot of their time and money. But like I said, because the system is kind of how it is, there are often times when, particularly in the public and charter realm, are put at a disadvantage a lot of times.
Okay, well, I want to tell you thank you for being here, because you gave a lot of information, stuff I didn't know. So now I know a little something about what's going on in the school system, so I want to tell you thank you definitely for being here. We're going to take a quick break, and I'll be back with my second guest, and we'll continue this talk about autism and get some more information. So we'll be right back. We're back now, and I have my awesome second guest, Miss Nicole Wilson, the CEO of Autism Moms Are Beautiful. How are you?
I am good, child.
Thank
Just
you.
happy it's Saturday.
Before you know it, it'll be Monday.
I know.
And we got to go back and do that whole cycle again. You have a company called Autism Moms Are Beautiful. You have a daughter that was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. And you have a magazine, Autism Moms Are Beautiful magazine as well. So let's just jump right into this and try to help people understand it, and try to help other parents understand how to deal with a child that has autism. So let me ask you something. Did you notice any signs before she was diagnosed that something wasn't right?
Actually, everybody else did. Everybody
Really?
else did. And there were a few people were afraid to tell me. So after she got older and I started looking back, I go, oh, the zoning out. You know, if she sees something, she'll zone left on me.
In her own world.
In her own world. And then if she's watching TV, I'm thinking she's watching TV and she's not. She's watching the little Nick Jr. sign on the side on the right, and she will gravitate straight to that Nick Jr. sign. And I'm like, oh my goodness, she likes TV. And the family's like, nah, she's looking at the Nick Jr. sign. A lot of stuff like that I never thought about with her having autism. And then she also had lead poisoning as well. So I don't know if that is a side effect of her having autism, or if she did have autism before that, did it get worse from the lead poisoning? So.
Okay. So I was speaking with Mr. Terrence about special education in the school systems, public school systems, and how the kids are, to me, not treated well. So do you think that schools need to be educate their teachers more? And that's why I said to him, more to work with kids with special needs.
Oh, definitely. And like Terrence was saying, when a person is going to school to become a special education teacher, and he mentioned about applied behavior analysis, this is not even required for them to take in order to teach at the schools. But that's one of the main things that is needed for children with special needs, or well, with autism mainly. But in reference to mine, yes, I will say that, because even still, we talk about the actual general education teachers needing to be more educated, but you still have a lot of special education teachers that need it. I mean, because my daughter, there was a alleged abuse incident on her from a special education teacher, but she's the one that's educated. She's the one that knows everything. She's the one that knows what she's supposed to do. So at the end of the day, it's just like we said, it's all about knowing, getting better, and as a parent, you need to also know, hey, if this teacher is not great, you don't have to settle for that teacher. If I don't like that teacher in that school district, I have a right for my child to go to another school within that district. So it's a lot of things that we as parents have to also know what to do in order to know how to fight the battle.
Okay. So I just came to the conclusion after talking to Mr. Terrence. It's about money. Bottom line. That's my final diagnosis on education. But do you think do you think it's a problem, or will it be a good idea for mothers with special needs kids to go into the school maybe once a week, once a month, and have classes with teachers to teach them how to work with their kids? Because it seems like the school district is not going to do anything to give these teachers more education. So do you think a parent should come up with this program and say, hey, we want to come into the school system and sit down and do classes once a month, at least once a month, and teach these teachers what they're missing to deal with our kids? You think that's
Well, what
I think that's a good idea.
What I would say is that it's a great idea. I said, but
you trying to tell me this?
I'm about to
happen?
tell you something. In regards to that, I mean, us being able to observe a class is not even a smiley face and a welcome. So we don't even get a welcome. I think it's like every 9 weeks you can observe for 30 minutes.
So let me ask you something. Is this only for special needs classes, or is this just in general across the board? In general across the board, Ms. Terrence?
Well,
so why you
I
can't?
would say that it's in general, but I do feel as a parent that if my child was not autistic, they would be freely open for me to come and sit in a class and help. But with her being special needs, I feel that it's a little bit harder.
So why parents can go to the schools and it just pop up on the kids and sit in?
I mean, I don't work for the school district, but what I will say is that I have friends that have children on the spectrum and off the spectrum, and they get more flack to go watch the on the spectrum kid in class than they do for the child that is not on the spectrum or the neurotypical kid. They don't get the same, hey, you have to do this, you have to do that. They don't get the same treatment they have both kids. They have two kids in the house. So you have two kids, one that's neurotypical, then you have a child that's in the special education room. And the parent said to me that I can go anytime I want for my child it's not a problem. But the one that's in the special education classroom, it's a little bit harder.
And when you use the word neurotypical,
that's just a child just a regular kid.
Regular kid.
Okay.
Okay. So how important is it for teachers as well as parents? Because I mean, I know we're talking about education, and I know some teachers, and we've seen it on the news, they lose their patience with the kids that have special needs, but parents themselves lose their patience.
Right.
How important is it for them to have patience with children with autism?
Well, it's definitely something that is needed. And as a parent of a child with autism, the one thing that I did lack before her was that I was never a patient person. I was a go-getter. I did what I wanted to do. I went when I wanted to go. And having her actually taught me patience, because it was like, I'm not running anything. That's basically what she taught me.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you don't do what I say. And she's looking at me like, and I'm like, oh, Lord. You know?
I've met her
so
before.
So you know.
Yeah,
and so I think it's a good thing. And I didn't go to any school for that. That's just something that her being my child, I didn't have a choice. I had to go, okay, when I get upset or when I'm not patient with her, she can feel that energy. She can feel it. And then it goes from 0 to 100 when it was already just 0 to 10. So I had to start learning that I had to change a lot of myself. So in reference to being a school teacher or aide, I feel like that is something that you don't have a choice with, because a lot of their behaviors and what they do is uncontrollable, not because they're trying to do those things, you know. So yeah, it's definitely, you have to have patience. And if you don't have patience to work with children with special needs or on the spectrum, I just would say don't do it. I mean, because this is something you have to have, because every kid is different.
Yeah.
You know, like Terrence mentioned about his child. His child's on the spectrum like my child's on the spectrum, but they're two different kids. So it doesn't matter if both of them like books. He may like comical books. My daughter may like Dora. But
Yeah.
the thing is that a lot of times they generalize them. So if they like books, then they all like books the same way. That's not really the case.
No.
You know, so it may frustrate his son to look at that Dora book. I don't look at that Dora girl. And he probably flips over my daughter's book because he doesn't want to see it. And then as a teacher, you can't force him to just like that.
No.
Figure out a way to teach him, hey, this is what this child likes. Hey, let's try to work together. That could take weeks. That could take a month, but it'll work, you know.
And we're going to talk about different signs and stuff, because I've spoken to you before. I have a niece and her son, the oldest son, is autism. And I go home, when I go home, I watch him since he was little, because we picked it up like something is not right. So we'll go into that shortly. Tell us about Autism Moms Are Beautiful.
Okay, well, Autism Moms Are Beautiful, I created it about a couple of years ago, and it was just something fun. It wasn't anything like, hey, we're going to start this and move to this. I said, I'm just going to take some money, and I'm just going to give away gifts every Wednesday. So I created a group on Facebook, Autism Moms Are Beautiful with Nicole Wilson. And then every week I would say, hey, y'all join into my live feed, and I'm going to give away a gift. And my first gift giveaway was in Canada. I didn't even know I had someone from Canada in the group. And then I had another mom that was from another country. And of course, I don't know that you can't send liquids and stuff. I'm just going
You just
to
send it, so you're about to be arrested.
Excuse me, you can't send that. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. You know. So it started from there. And then I met an autism mom. Her name was Anna Esparza. And she has 2 kids on the spectrum. And she was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. And she survived. So I was like, why don't I just get you like a photographer and you just look better than what you already look, girl. Make you look hot, make you look beautiful. And we could just go take a picture, put you on it, we'll do like a little magazine. Everything was just all fun. And then someone came to me and said, hey, you want to have a party for them? I was like, not really. I was, I don't know why I would do that. I'm already giving them a group. She was like, no, okay. And that's how I came up with the award ceremony. So this is our 3rd year coming up next year from this lady just giving me, her name was Davinia Reed from the HMAC. I think it's the HMAC, the Houston Museum of African American Culture. She said, here, girl, we got this museum, let's do something. And I had the first ceremony there in 2017.
Congratulations, because they need to be, that's a stressful.
2018, I'm sorry, yeah.
That's very stressful.
It is, and that's why I created it, because
for a parent.
because me being an autism mom, I was always stressed, it was hard. Everything started to hit you when your child's like 4 years old. Wow, she's not going to the restroom. Oh my goodness, I have to send her to school. Somebody has to change her. Oh, I can't just go to this daycare. I have to find somewhere to take her. Oh, they're not going to take her because she's special. Then it's like, oh my goodness, she can't speak. She can't speak up for herself. So now I have to deal with, what if someone hurts her? Everything starts hitting you, you know, like a truck. Boom. You know, every week something, and it makes you totally depressed. It makes you just cry all the time. So when I realized I was crying all the time, I was like, well, I can't stay in this spot. This ain't gonna work either, you know?
Yeah.
So when I started realizing, okay, let me work on different ways to eat, do different things, and just do things that I like to do. So I have moms that call me all the time. My phone rings at 1 o'clock in the morning sometimes.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm like, okay, are you okay? Because the first thing I ask, are you gonna kill yourself? You feel like you wanna kill yourself? If they say no, okay, good, because that's not what I specialize in. I was like, but I will talk them
You
through
gonna guide them through the right,
yeah,
to the
you
right
know,
people.
so that's why I created it. It's just some encouragement. We have fun and things like that.
So what are some signs you can give parents to look for? Because I know, like I said before, my niece, we noticed when he was little, he wasn't talking. Because, you know, normally about 2 or 3, they're saying words that you fully understand. And they weren't he wasn't talking. He wasn't being potty, you know, trained and all that. And and the number one thing, in his own world. It's like we weren't even in the room with him. He had an iPad, because he loves his iPad. He had his iPad, and he would just go sit somewhere and just be in his own world and nothing. So what are some signs that we can give some parents to look for that see something might be wrong but not sure?
Well, the first thing that I would say is, to anyone that has a friend that they see, you have to be first very sensitive to that, because, you know, you can see some things and they don't see it, and it's the approach level. First off, make sure you're real sensitive about that, because people can be like, why are you coming at me like that with this? But I will say that when you put your child in the room with other children their same age, just pay attention.
Yeah, because
You know,
they'll communicate with each other.
and also too, like, that's what I did. I noticed that when I would go to different events for children that were age 2 and 1, my daughter was all the way over there. You know, she was licking the window. She was pulling
he did
things.
that.
She
He
was
did
doing
that kind of
things.
stuff too.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you know,
that kind of stuff
don't ignore that when you see them in a crowd of kids and all these kids are just, you know, doing what they do, and then your
Yeah.
child is way over there or your child is way over there, because sometimes it's not also the fact that it could be autism. It's just because some kids are just delayed in communicating.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you just got to be sensitive to that. But like for me, my daughter wasn't communicating. She actually went from a bottle to a sippy cup, and then when the lead poisoning took place, she went back from a sippy cup to the bottle. So a lot of times if they gravitate and start moving to new things and all of a sudden they start to go backwards,
Something's
then you need to
wrong.
ask yourself, well, why is my child going backwards? My daughter was doing sign language. Then all of a sudden there was no more signing. So it's a lot of things that you can see something, but you need to pay attention to the progress. And then, you know, don't be afraid to go to your pediatrician and say, hey, I think something's a little different or off with my kid. And then they're going to ask you like 20 questions. And if all those answers are pretty much no, then you pretty much know that, oh, my child may be delayed, or there needs to be something I need to do in regards to therapy, speech, physical, occupational, whatever, to get myself involved with that.
What are some tips parents can use with a child with autism?
Well, since
Definitely
it's,
patience.
yeah, that's definitely one. One of the things that I talk to my autism moms about is that your child is not like someone else's. So you can sit down all day and let somebody give you all this advice that worked for their kid. You have to learn your kid. You have to sit back and go, you know what, my kid does not like mac and cheese with whole milk in it. It
Yeah.
may need 2%. The tip that I give is to know your child and learn your child. And it's okay to talk to other people to get different tips, but don't take those tips as concrete. Because if you take it as concrete, you're going to be like, her child did this, so mine can do this too, and you're going to do this, and then you start getting frustrated.
Yeah.
Take all the tips that you can, try them, but find out what is the best method for your child. That's the advice that I normally give.
And lastly, what are some words of encouragement do you give to any mom or both parents? Because not everybody is a single parent home, like Terrence, him and his wife, and they have a son that has autism. To help them not lose focus, stay positive, and then not feel guilty, because some parents will feel very guilty or ashamed that their child is like that. So what advice, what words of encouragement do you give them?
I tell them that it's just very important to communicate with who your husband is or wife, because you have to think that both parents have a great perspective on how to handle the kid. And being able to accept that maybe the father has this method, which you think it's not the best method, but it might be the best method. So don't shun off the other partner. Try to say, okay, let's sit down. We're going to try what you suggest. Let's try what I suggest until we figure out what's best. Because what I see is sometimes, as a mom, I'm just speaking as a mom, and even with my child's father, we're not together. He has a certain way that it does work. And I don't think it works, but it don't work with me, but it works with him. So I don't want to shun out his method, and I had to start stepping back with that, the same way him with me. So I always just tell people, because I'm not married, that always take into consideration what your spouse has to say and their feelings, because you may not see what your husband is seeing, because you're just a mother, you're nurturing, but he sees something else. Make sure you both are listening to each other for what's best for the child. That's the encouragement that I always give people that are married. Single moms, I tell them that you need breaks. You know, you need breaks, and sometimes getting breaks, you have to be able to work with people that are really interested and want to love and want to know. But if you keep that child away from the world, then you're stressing yourself out more. They have to be able to function in the world. So sometimes you're going to have to take them out and work with other people and listen to other people, which that is very hard to do for some of us moms.
Because we're doing a give back in my hometown, and I'm making my niece volunteer, because I told her, I said, your children are not going to let nobody touch their feet. So, because she has, you know, they're not really around people a whole lot. And I said, then you need to volunteer, because they're not going to do right.
And it's just training, you know.
They're not going to do right.
My daughter didn't do certain things, but I had to realize that just because she doesn't do it that one time, if you just keep working and working, a lot of times they'll get it. It just may take 10, 15 times for you to work with them, but that's where the patience comes in. So
most definitely. So I want to tell you, thank you for being here. We took the mask off just a little bit on autism. So definitely thank you for being with us. we're going to be right back with my next guest. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back now, and I have another phenomenal guest, and he is a author of a children's book. Is it K.A.?
Yes, K.A.
K.A. Wright. So thank you for being here with us today, because I'm excited about your book, and I don't have any kids, but I'm excited about,
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate
about the
it.
book. You're a first-time author.
Mm-hmm.
First time out the gate. What decided you to start writing?
Ooh, I don't know. Growing up, I used to write poetry.
Okay.
I used to always write poetry. I watched the movie Love Jones like when I was younger, so I fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to just write poetry, but I would always throw it away.
Why?
And I just used to always throw it away. And
Okay.
and then I would say like last year I started writing. I mean, I never thought about writing this, but writing this book. But yeah, I started writing like last year.
And this book is on Amazon bestseller list, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So to let you guys know, this book is a company's billing tool. It's a tool for parents to monitor their children's thoughts and emotional state. So why a children's book of all books? Why a children's book?
Yeah. So all right. So the children's book thing, like I said a second ago, it wasn't. I didn't really plan on writing a children's book. I was like, at that time, I was like going through a lot. I remember being in like this, in this abandoned house. I was going through it. So I remember like sitting in the house, sitting up in there like 3 o'clock in the morning, like, you know, I had like, what you call it? Toilet paper. I would stuff toilet paper in my ears and my nose because, you know, you had like a whole bunch of roaches and stuff running up in there. So like I'm sitting up one night. Okay. I'm serious. I'm sitting up one night and I'm just like, it came to me, and I was like, man, I'm not writing no children's book. I ain't writing that. But then I started thinking. I was like, okay, it actually sounds pretty good. But I always people watched.
Mm-hmm.
So I would watch things that would happen in the world, and I was like, you know, instead of complaining about it, I always wanted to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think it was gonna come in that form.
Okay.
So yeah, children's book, and then when I was like, so like throughout the time, I remember when I actually started writing, I sold everything I had to make that idea come to life.
So you wrote this book, Perfect Just Like You.
Mm-hmm.
I love it because it spotlights different type of kids. So tell me about Perfect Just Like You.
Well, the thing that pushed me forward with Perfect Just Like You, my little cousin, Kalia, that's the little girl in the middle.
You want to show everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Which one?
She actually had trouble with identifying with black Barbie dolls. So what I did, when my aunt told me about it, I tweaked the character a little bit and I put her name by it and just told it was her. I have a niece that her middle name is Kalia too. So I tell both of them that is her name.
So,
but
what you gonna do when they find out you've been?
Hey, if it worked, it worked. Nah, it worked, so it is what it is. But Kalia was having my cousin. She was having an issue that I knew about. So when I actually showed her the book, when I showed my aunt the character, give it to her, she instantly changed her mind. So I knew I had to kind of like push forward a little bit harder with it. So about Perfect Just Like You, these are my characters. This is Chloe, Darius, Camila, Kalia, Jules, Jaden, Mateo. This is Mr. Scruggs. All the puzzle pieces have a meaning. This is Shine Your Light, Remain Powerful, Embrace Change, Love Stronger, Become Your Best Self, Aim High, Create Balance. And I use the puzzle pieces to show that everybody's connected in some way, shape, or form, but we all are different. And it's important that we love and embrace our own differences. That way we can embrace and respect the differences of others. Inside the book, I use poetry to speak to the inherent features of each child. So I talk about things like the hair, the skin, the eyes, the height, weight. If they have a disability or disease, I call that a superpower. You have a message sent with care that speaks to child
Is
molestation.
that one showing their feet?
This is about the feet. You want to read it to you?
Yeah, well, no, I don't want
But yeah, that one's about the feet. You have a place to put their picture, a place to put their name. Yeah.
And then go ahead and get it. That's the coloring book.
And this one is the coloring book. The coloring
So
book.
tell us about that one.
The coloring book is actually a tool for parents to monitor their child's thoughts and check their emotional state. So basically what I use, I created a safe space for children to write and add color to their world however they see fit. But I also I use questions. I ask questions.
Give me a couple of questions you have in there.
Like,
That a parent.
so like for this one right here, for instance. So it's like, it's like, how many smiles do you see? What kind of fruit do you see? What makes you smile? Do you like fruit? Do you like your smile? And what is your favorite fruit? So it's not just bombarding the child with like tons of questions over and over. It's actually, you know, it's making them think about other things, and then after that, this other stuff kind of pours out. I've actually used it. I've used it when I go to places and talk to children, and they just tell me everything. And so what I'm saying is, if parents actually take that same approach, they can figure out more than what they can figure
And
out
pretty
more
much
about their
just
children.
kind of meeting them at their level at that point to get them to tell what's really going on. Do you have something in there for bullying too?
Well, so basically, the thing is for that one right there.
This one here?
So yeah, so both of them for bully. They're both for bullies. You can kind of say, well, we all know what happens with children, and with all of us, right? We're adults. So a lot of things that happen is the things that happen to us when we're children, we take that into our adulthood if it's not taken care of.
Yeah.
Right. So with that one right there, you can pinpoint if a child is on there, he's like, oh no, I don't like doing this. I don't like talking to children. Oh, and they may write some mean things down. They may not think that is mean, but they may write it down up in there, so you can figure out if your child is a bully or not. And the whole thing of the whole idea of both of the books is to actually like stop some of that stuff, right? So in here, it's not just. So for here, this child right here, Jaden, he's an amputee.
Yes.
Right. So you got to think about how Jaden may feel. A child who has an amputee, he may feel like, oh, well, I don't have a leg. My leg isn't like everybody else's leg. You know, that makes him feel different. So for a child who has never seen a child like Jaden, that may make him want to question and ask questions about Jaden, or he may even bully Jaden. You know, depending on, because children are brutal, right? Children say whatever they want to say. They do.
They'll
whatever.
say it to children and adults. They a little rough sometimes.
Right. So hopefully, well, not hopefully, from what I've experienced so far, and another reason why it was created to create a stronger bond between parents and the child. So I want to touch the heart of the parent, so that way through their children they'll receive this as well. So it'll strengthen the bond, and it's very interactive.
What would you say is the best thing, one of the best things that a parent as well as the child can get from these books?
I would say one of the best things about it, just to instill in their children that they all a perfect puzzle piece to a grand puzzle, and what they add to the world is it matters, and that they matter. So that's like overall, I would think that that'll be a good thing. One of the things they can take away from this book.
Okay.
I would like for them to do.
And what about, and now you would say that would be a takeaway for both the parent and the child? Okay. Okay. Well, I want to say thank you so very much for coming, because I like these books. I think they will come in handy with a lot of kids, because it shows the diversity of each of these kids.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's what I want to cover. I just cover everything. It doesn't matter like what it is that the child goes through. It doesn't matter if they have a disability or disease. It don't matter if they have whatever religion they are. It doesn't matter. It's just like just
And
like
I think,
each child that they're perfect.
Not all parents teach their kids that the world is different, and everybody here is different. And with this, when you're a kid, a little kid growing up, and if you had this tool, you're able to see everyone is different, and we're all made different. We all are meant to think differently. But hopefully the end goal is for us to all turn out to be upstanding adults. But you don't have a lot of parents that teach that.
Yeah.
And it might be because they weren't taught that way, you know. So, but I want to say definitely thank you for being here with the books. Check out Perfect Just Like You, guys.
And I know, to what you were saying a second ago, I was in an airport one time, and there was this lady in the airport, and she was telling me about her child. And she was like, oh, I like this. And she was telling me that the child started asking questions about, they get to a certain age, start asking questions about skin.
Yeah, they do.
Or well, like, Mom, how come I don't look like this? Or why? What's that? And so she told her child that he was clear. And I'm like, I don't have any children, but I'm like, yeah, I probably don't think that was like the best route. So, I don't think that's fair because, I just don't.
What? Where did the word click? I guess that's another show.
Yes, you go
I'm gonna let that one go because I've heard that word before being used, and I can. That'll be another show for next year, I guess.
Hey.
Can somebody tell me where the word clear came from? Because I don't remember. I'm going to leave that one alone. Sometimes I say the wrong things and be caught up. So what's next? Are you going to do another book?
Yeah, I have. So each one of these children right here, they all have backstories.
Oh, okay.
Everybody have a backstory. So I will do one. I will do more books, maybe for like teenagers, even one for adults.
Yeah, I think you need one for them.
This will also be.
Yeah.
It'll also be in Braille. It'll
Okay.
be in French and Spanish and Swahili.
Okay.
So I'll create something for all of them.
Okay. Well, definitely thank you for being here. I love these books. I wish you all success. Most definitely.
Hello. I just stopped by to remind you of how fabulous you are, how wonderful you are, how God made you to do wonderful and miraculous things in the world.
I want to say thank you to all my guests that were here with me today. We definitely removed some masks on education, on autism. They told me a whole lot of stuff that I didn't know. So I think I'm about to start a whole new program in the school district. But if you would like any information on any of our guests that was here with us today, please contact the Our Life TV Show at gmail.com. And until next time, guys, always empower, always encourage, and continue to remove your mask.